Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Orton Gillingham podcast. I'm Esther, and I'm here with Katie.
Hi.
And we have a lot to talk about today.
We do, and it's Thanksgiving week.
It is. It is. We're getting ready for that turkey.
Mm-hmm.
But before we talk about Thanksgiving, we need to talk about Halloween. And I must bow down to the queen of Halloween. Yes, Katie won our... Put it on, Katie.
I'm trying.
Katie won the contest for best Halloween costume, and there she is.
It probably won't stay.
You don't have to wear it the whole time, but she did. Her costume was very fun, and so congratulations to Katie, who won. I knew she was going to win anyway because
That is
I knew it.
not a fighting spirit.
I know,
like to
but
hear.
I know when I'm beat. So that's it.
I loved yours, actually.
It was good. I was scary.
Yeah, and the picture that was put together with you and the
Yes.
ball of fire.
So
I thought they turned out cool.
yes, that was very cool. Thank you, Morgan.
Yeah, thanks, Morgan. And Morgan made this lovely crown, so thank you.
Yes, it was an engineering feat.
It is.
Yes.
It took her many hours.
Yes. So anyway, that's Halloween. Moving on to the next holiday coming up soon for us
Oh, that we could just eat.
that we can just eat. We don't have to dress up.
No.
Okay, good.
Maternity pants. I haven't been pregnant for at least 8 years. And I keep my maternity pants.
Just for Halloween.
Or no, for Thanksgiving.
I mean Thanksgiving. That's what I meant to
Well,
say.
Halloween too, why not?
Candy.
Costume.
Candy.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Okay. So Queen of Halloween.
Yes.
And did you know that this is Author's Day?
I did know only because it was right there on our outline.
And we were going to talk about who our favorite authors are.
Yeah. Who's yours?
Well, so I feel like I talk about a lot of children's books, but I love a lot of different books, but I don't have like an author as an adult that I follow,
Mm-hmm.
So Roald Dahl.
Oh, love him.
Did I say that right?
Roald Dahl.
Roald Dahl.
Yes.
Wait, I say it weird.
Well, that's all right.
When I heard you say it after me, I was like,
That's how I say it. Maybe I say it wrong.
I don't know. He's a genius.
Genius.
If you're not familiar, I mean, he wrote so many of the classic books.
Yes.
BFG.
He has the
probably-
best character names in the world.
Yes. So
love it.
creative.
Yes.
So James and the Giant Peach, all of those.
All of them. Matilda. Oh,
Oh, so good.
I know. Very,
Still love
very
those books.
fun.
And I still read them.
And they're for adults too.
Yeah. Well, I have kids, so I read them. But
I know, but they're good for adults.
Oh,
and
they are.
kids because they're wonderful.
they totally.
Well, my author, I have so many authors that I love.
Yeah.
It's very hard to pin it down, but I always say that my favorite, I love the book A Room with a View. I love it. It's about this English, aunt and her niece who go to Florence, and they are in Florence. And then there's part of it that takes place in England, but it's by E.M. Forster, and it's one of my favorite novels. And I love E.M. Forster, and he wrote Howard's End and A Room with a
okay.
View and Passage to India. So he wrote a lot of amazing things, and so I just love that book so much.
Yeah. And I mean, I have a book, The Glass Castle. Have you ever?
I've heard you talk about that before, and I've never read
Jeannette
that.
Walls.
I have never read that book.
Yeah. It's not like it's a memoir.
Uh-huh.
And I just think the whole story is fascinating. I love memoirs.
I need to remember that because you've mentioned that before.
And, I've read it a few times.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I love reading about stories when it's somebody's life and they've been through so much. And you're like, why? How am I even complaining about my day today?
That's right. That's
Like,
good. Yeah.
It makes you feel very
So
loved.
you read A Room with a View, and I'll read The Glass Castle.
Oh, yeah. We'll do
have a
book club.
discussion. Okay.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. Very good. So yeah, Author's Day.
Yeah. And then also, this is not, we had our contest about the Mystery Woman.
The mystery.
And we did have a winner.
So we asked we gave a bunch of hints about a woman who was famous historical woman, and that was for Women's Equality Day or something. That's what that was for, I
Yeah.
believe. And so we gave some hints, and we have a winner.
We do have a winner. Ryan, he got it right. And the answer was Ida B. Wells.
Mm-hmm.
And so he won a $100 Visa gift card.
That's pretty good, Ryan. Hope you didn't
Right
spend
near
it all
the
in one place.
holidays.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice.
Perfect. Yes.
Nice job,
Yes,
Ryan.
Yes. So today, though, we are here to talk about the science of reading. And that's something that we hear all the time now. And it's not like it's anything new, but it's something that's super important that we've been hearing about. As far as reading, approaches to reading. And so we have a really special guest here today. Her name is Penny Ezell. And Katie's going to kind of give you a little background about Penny's background. But Penny's has really devoted her life to this, and that's why she's here
Yeah.
for us to pick her brain.
And
And
we've
so
met Penny.
we have met Penny. I've only met Penny once in person. And now this is the second time I'm seeing Penny.
Yeah, and she's done quite a few things for us for Brainspring.
Mm-hmm.
She's an amazing resource, and I'll give you a little background.
Go
on
for
Miss
it.
Penny. Penny is an accomplished educator with 23 years of experience who has devoted herself to improving literacy for all students. During her time as an educator, Penny has had the privilege of being an elementary classroom teacher, a literacy coach at both the elementary and middle school levels, a K-12 literacy specialist working with 13 school districts across, I can't speak. Sorry, Penny. Across Northwest Arkansas, and the K-4 literacy specialist for Bentonville schools in Arkansas. Penny is trained in Brainspring's Phonics First, Structures, and Level 2 training. She was a R.I.S.E trainer for the state of Arkansas, focusing on the science of reading, and helped co-author Brainspring's Science of Reading training. Tut, added that. She was also a local LETRS trainer in Arkansas. She's currently working as an independent literacy consultant with Empowering Writers and is a candidate to become a national professional learning facilitator for LETRS. Penny is passionate about ensuring all teachers are trained in the science of reading so they can in turn provide the best reading instruction to their students. A well-trained teacher can make a huge difference in the life of a child. She believes that teaching kids how to read is the most important thing we do in education.
Yes, and you are right.
I flubbed that up a couple of times. Penny, I am so sorry.
She needs the science
It doesn't
of
mean
reading.
that I need the science of reading badly. Welcome, Penny. We're so happy that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we were just talking to Penny right before we started. Penny, from that background that I just read, she's from Arkansas. But where did you move to?
Watertown, New York. My husband is in the Army, and they moved us to Fort Drum. And so experiencing some different weather here than normal in Northwest Arkansas. So we have about 64 inches of snow on the ground this weekend. So it was super fun and definitely an experience.
Did you go out and play in the snow?
We went for a walk right when it started, when we had about a foot and a half. Took the dog for a walk, and it was coming down about 3 or 4 inches an hour at that time. But we haven't really done a lot of playing since then. So,
Well, you need to make a snowman
Or a tunnel.
or a tunnel.
A tunnel out of your house.
Yeah.
so you can escape. Well, that's a lot of snow for us.
For anybody. Yes.
Yeah,
That's
that's
crazy.
a lot of snow.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk to Penny a little bit about the science of reading, and so we have some questions, and they'll lead into other questions and comments and topics. So Penny, let's just get started about something pretty basic. What is your definition of the science of reading? I mean, that's a tricky question because it doesn't seem like there's one specific definition. So what is yours?
I think when trying to explain it to friends that are not in education, the easiest way to explain it is that the science of reading is really just a vast collection of scientific research and evidence that's out there from the last 40, 50 years that we know based on how humans learn to read. And through all of that research, we know how the brain works to be able to read. And it's given us a glimpse of what we need to do instruction wise to teach kids how to read. There's a lot of different theoretical models out there with the simple view of reading or the four-part mental processor, Scarborough's rope, and the reading brain when you look at it and how the different parts of the brain work. The beauty of all of those pieces is they do a really great job of showing and representing all of that scientific research. And when you're showing those models to different people, you can really see how they all relate to each other. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is that we need to take these 40, 50 years of research, and now that we know how the human brain learns to read, we know effective ways that we have to teach kids how to read. So that's the simple version. It's very complex, and I think that's the hardest part, is that there are so many facets to the science of reading that it's not just one thing. And so that's the important piece of looking at all of that research from the last 40 or 50 years and making sure that our instruction matches that research.
Right. And that's a big piece that we talk about in some of our courses, and the course that you taught us, is that even though all this research has been in place for, 40, 50 years, or in the works even, that it's not really being reflected as much in the classroom or at the
Right.
collegiate level. When I went to college, I never,
No,
ever, and I mean, I'm old, but I'm not that old.
no, I
And
am that old, and that for sure was not discussed
no,
at all.
not at all.
Yeah, yeah.
So that kind of leads into, like, if we're not seeing this on, collegiate level for teachers and preparing teachers, that has to be having a big impact in the classroom. So do you notice an impact that it's having in the classroom?
Absolutely. So, like I said, I've been doing this for 23 years. So when I started, it was all about whole language, balanced literacy, and that's what we learned in college. And so we had all of that knowledge. And I was around when the National Reading Panel, came out, was part of Reading First, and through that initiative, we did see a difference in knowing that we needed to have phonemic awareness and phonics and fluency and vocabulary and comprehension. But the thing with what we did with Reading First was we were still teaching kids with guided reading and teaching them. So we'd have a phonics lesson over here, but then in small group, we were having them do the complete opposite, using context and meaning first. And then our last resort was teaching them how to sound out the word. Even though we had the phonics over in home group, it was not meshing. And so the biggest change that I've seen in the last 8 to 10 years is, I think our NAEP scores as a nation are not increasing. Been a lot of talk about the reading wars and those types of things. And with our NAEP scores, kids being home in COVID and parents seeing how they're being taught to read, if it was a balanced literacy approach, then they were questioning why are my kids learning how to guess at words? But then if they had a science of reading approach, then they can kind of see that it's a very structured approach to teaching them how to read. And so I think that in these last 8 to 10 years, the research has really shown and come to light of what students need to be doing. A lot of programs like Phonics First and other programs out there have really had that structured approach to teaching kids how to read, taking that research and applying that. And so I just think that I know for the past 8 years working and training teachers in R.I.S E, training them in LETRS and those types of things, that it's really given them the knowledge that they didn't get in college to be able to look at the programs that they have and see, does this have a sequential scope and sequence of teaching, and is it cumulative? So systematic, cumulative, there's so many pieces, and explicit that they, didn't learn how to do all of that in college. And so I think that's a big piece and of how, and we've just seen, I was thinking back, back to the time when we were teaching the guided reading, and then we were teaching the phonics, but then we started doing RTI and intervention, and we started using science of reading interventions, and those kids were making progress. And so I think there were a lot of ahas of, okay, if this works for these students, maybe we should be doing this for all students. And I think between that and all of the different trainings that are out there now, I think it's finally coming to light that it's not just one thing, that you have to have all of the pieces to make it work for kids.
So that you said something that triggered something in my head. So I'm a secondary educator. I was a high school teacher, and we for sure weren't taught how to teach a person how to read ever. That was just assumed that by the time they got to high school, they would know how to read. And we know that's not true. So how do you see the science of reading working, or these theories and these techniques working with older kids? I mean, we know about how important phonological awareness is. And we tend to think that's something you do with young kids, but we know that older kids struggle with that as well. So can you just talk for a second about if any experience you might have using this with older kids? How does that look in their special ed class? That kind of thing.
I think, if a child, no matter the age, even an adult, doesn't know how to read, you have to start with the foundational skills, with the phonemic awareness and the phonics. But it's also important, if they are older, that you bring in the morphology piece as well. And so that piece is really important. So not only are you working on the decoding and encoding skills, but that you're also working on the morphology and that meaning piece, because they're going to be able to more quickly get to where they need to on grade level. If not, they not only have the encoding and decoding piece, but they also have the meaning piece as well. So I think that's an extremely important piece when you're working with those older students, that some programs do all of the phonological awareness and kind of basic phonics pieces first, and then at the end. So it may be 3 years before they're able to get to the morphology piece. And I think it's important to kind of do those things alongside each other, because they can learn both at the same time.
Yeah.
Wait, that brings up a good question.
What?
Because that sounds familiar to me.
I think it is familiar too.
I was going to ask, though. I was actually going to ask this question, but it was a good segue into our structures program.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, outside of, we have our structures program, we have Phonics First, if there are any resources that you would recommend.
William Van Cleve's website, even though he's not with us anymore,
Yeah.
his resources that are on his website are phenomenal. He has some different things on there. I think y'all have it on the Brainspring website too. I think I saw an email that came through that it's the PS prefixes and suffixes, and then there's a more advanced copy of that as well. So there's like 2 volumes of that book. I also like there. I'll have it in the other room. It's a yellow and green and purple book that has a lot of morphology pieces in it as well.
Yeah,
His
we do
workshops.
we love his stuff, and he does such a great job with Orton Gillingham, really Orton Gillingham techniques with very complex, you know, rules, grammar rules and syntax, and really does a wonderful job. Yeah, we do have his Writing Matters book that we encourage people to look at. But yeah, and of course, the ultimate resource is the David Kilpatrick Equipped for Reading Success book. That's all about the science of reading, isn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, that's a staple, I think, for any classroom teacher or anybody who's teaching. I think to
Yeah,
have
and
that.
that's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be secondary either.
No, that's anybody.
A lot of elementary teachers are using that too,
Yes.
which it's a great resource.
It is. It was definitely a game changer for us when we read that book, went through the book study. He actually came and spoke to us in Arkansas when we were working on the R.I.S E training, and the knowledge that we learned about orthographic mapping and how that works for students, that sound symbol relationship piece, but then how the orthographic mapping piece works it's a phenomenal book to really understand. And the great part is it's not just theory, but it has so many activities that you can use with your students to help build that orthographic mapping for them.
So we've been kind of talking about the science of reading and about kind of sort of the phonics part of it. But is it just about phonics, or is there anything about comprehension that we can pull in?
So my short answer is absolutely not. I think there's such a misconception that the science of reading is just about phonics. So when we look at the science of reading, one of the easiest models to kind of look at is the simple view of reading. And so you have the decoding times language comprehension equals reading comprehension. And so phonics definitely falls in that decoding piece, because we're talking about, like we've talked about, the phonemic awareness and the phonics, and really building that orthographic mapping so kids are able to have that quick sight recognition of words that are stored in permanent memory. But there's also language comprehension. And so that piece really focuses on background knowledge and vocabulary, semantics, syntax, verbal reasoning, all of those pieces that are so important, that it takes both sides of the equation to truly have a skilled reader. So it's important when you're looking at curriculum, you're looking at the instruction that you're doing in your classroom, that you want to make sure that you're doing both sides of the equation, that it's not just focused on decoding, or it's not just focused on language comprehension, that it really takes both of those things to create a skilled reader. So, while you're working on the decoding pieces, I'm also reading above grade level text to my students to really help build that background knowledge, to build vocabulary, and to teach them verbal reasoning skills like inferencing and figurative language and those types of things. The other thing is once you decode a word, you need to go straight to meaning. And I think that sometimes is lost in our phonics instruction, that as soon as a kid decodes a word, it goes straight to the meaning processor. And so it's important to have a conversation around that word once they've decoded it. And once you've looked at a sentence, to comprehend that sentence. And even with decodable text, sometimes you can, after they've decoded it, and that was your first, reading of that decodable text, to bring in some comprehension questions very quickly after, because our whole purpose to learning how to read is to be able to comprehend. And so that needs to be done very quickly once the decoding piece has happened.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, we actually, and I'm wondering if you would want to help us out on this. We actually had a voicemail question,
Ah,
um, and we're gonna play it here. And Esther and I were already responding a little bit, but if you wanted to chime in, because this kind of reminded me a little bit about what we were just talking about
yeah.
with, like the morphology piece with older students, and
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
so can we play that
Yeah. Let's see
voicemail?
if we can listen to this and Penny can hear it.
Good evening. So, what would you recommend for a 69-year-old to help me to read? What course would be the best one to take at this stage?
I love, first of all, that she called in
Yes.
and asked that question. It's a
Yes.
great question,
Yes.
and I always say you're never too old.
Right. And the
To
courage,
start.
the courage that took.
Yes.
So how would you, I mean, we have responded to her, but I think it would be nice for you to kind of think about, in light of what we've been talking about today, how would you respond to her, Penny?
Lori and I actually had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. I have signed up to tutor for the Northern New York Literacy Council, and I'm going to be working with adults that have not learned how to read. And so I can't imagine, that not, just how much reading you have to do in life. And so I was really eager to do something different. As I train teachers still, but to kind of do this as a volunteer. And one of the things that I think is that my goal, I'm going to use structures. They're going to allow me, instead of using the curriculum that they typically use, they're going to allow me to use structures with the adults that I'm working with. And so I think that, it is important that you teach them. I mean, you're going to have to do an assessment to see where are they. I think that's the biggest thing, is where are they with their phonological awareness, phonemic awareness skills, where are they in their phonics skills? So doing a decoding and an encoding kind of assessment. That's going to kind of let you know that area. But I think they've lived life. And so the meaning piece is going to be so important for them. And so teaching them the prefixes and suffixes and the roots is going to be an important piece as well. So I think, just like we talked about with older students, with adults as well, would be it's going to be a new adventure for me. So I'll tell you in 8 months how that's going, but that's definitely what I would recommend.
Yeah. The bottom line is that regardless of how old you are, right? You still need phonological awareness. You still need to understand what letters are and what they say, and you still need to understand when you put some of those letters together and they create a morpheme, that has a meaning. So all these, and so Penny was referring to the Structures program, which is a program that includes all of that stuff. And so I'm excited for those adults, and that's how we would respond to our caller as well, is to learn, not necessarily take a phonics first class.
Yeah, that would be too difficult.
Yeah, that's how you teach somebody to read, but she actually needs someone to use the phonics first or structures program with her. And I think, and we know that it'll work.
Yeah.
We know it'll
And
work.
just
Yep.
finding a place that provides that kind of tutoring.
Yeah.
And actually, we had an instructor, one of our instructors, who tutored adults also, and she ended up tutoring a nurse to help her pass her board exams because she was really struggling with this test. And our instructor went over all of the roots and everything with her, and did some of the phonics skills too. But after just doing that, she could read the test. She understood what they were asking. She could study better, and she passed it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
I've tutored people from other countries as well who are trying to learn to read in English, and that and using phonics first, using the program, and so it absolutely works with
Yeah.
regardless of age, right?
Right.
That I think that we're all on the same page with that one. I mean, so if you are a person who struggles to read as an adult, just seek out a tutoring center, I would think, that teaches multisensory approaches to reading, and I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Great. Awesome. So that was from Heather. I don't know if we mentioned.
Oh, we didn't. Oh,
I don't know if we mentioned her name, but
Oh,
that
I'm
was,
sorry.
But
Yes, that was.
thank you, Heather, for being courageous and reaching out and
Yes.
asking that really important question.
Yeah, because
For
chances
sure.
are there was other people asking that or not brave enough to ask it, and
Yes,
we're just so
yes.
happy that you were listening and you called in. So thank you.
Yes. Penny, do you have any other kind of anything that we haven't maybe covered specifically that you'd kind of like to say about
Did you call her honey?
maybe I did call her honey.
I think she did.
No, I
Did you
didn't.
call
I
her
called
honey, or
I-
did you say Penny?
I think I said Penny, but
I was almost sure you said honey.
But I will call Penny honey too, because I have no problem with that.
I didn't either. I didn't even skip a beat, and then I just thought about it. I'm sorry. That was so rude of me. So, yes, do you have any final
other?
thoughts
Yes.
or anything on the discussion that we've just had?
The biggest thing that I would recommend for school districts or teachers is to really look at the curriculums that they have and that they've been given. And if they've gone through science of reading training, to really make sure there's some checklists out there. The Reading League has a really good checklist of what a program should have that meets the requirements for the science of reading, for both kind of the decoding side of things and the language comprehension side of things. So on the Reading League website, it's kind of, they're not attached to a program or anything like that. So it's a really great resource that they have that has a little checklist that you can use to make sure that you aren't missing something, because a lot of times programs are expensive, and so pulling in other things to kind of help that can be something that's really good. You also mentioned EL students, and I think, a lot of times when we talk about RLs, we really focus on language comprehension with them, building background knowledge and vocabulary and those types of things. And a lot of our programs that are specific to EL students are more on the language comprehension side of things. But it's really important that they also have structured literacy that's focusing on decoding as well. And so, for example, if you think about this Spanish speaking kids that you have, Spanish has 22 phonemes. We have 44 phonemes. There's lots of differences. You can even see with your Spanish speaking students that a lot of times they'll drop the ends of words, when they're reading and those types of things. So, providing them with instruction on phonemic awareness and the phonic graphing correspondence piece, working on articulation, and really how does that sound formed, because the sounds in their language are formed so differently. I think that's an important piece, using a sound wall to kind of anchor that learning for them. I just think so much emphasis is put on language comprehension for EL students, and it's very true. They need that piece, but they also need the decoding piece as well.
I think you said something really important. It doesn't really matter what curriculum you're using. You can still apply science of reading, philosophy, and research and techniques to any curriculum, really, to make it more, steeped in that science of reading. So that I think is an important takeaway as well. That we need to just understand what the science of reading is and see how it can fit across the board to any any program, whether it's a phonics or a comprehension-based program or for ELs or whatever. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Penny. We do have a question for you because at the beginning of this um, interview, before we talked to you, we talked about our favorite authors. Do you have a favorite author that you?
Do
She's pulling a book out. She's so
Oh,
prepared.
you are.
okay, here. This author, Andrea, I don't know, I think it's Beatty and
Yes.
she, the Rosie Revere engineer and Ada Twist scientist, all of those. She has this new book out, and it's Aaron Slater illustrator. I don't know if you've read this,
I
but
haven't.
Aaron, he's dyslexic. And
Oh,
his gift is being an illustrator, and it's just his journey of learning that it's okay to be different and that reading may be hard for him, but he has a gift as well. And it's just a beautiful story. My son's dyslexic, and he went through years of Orton Gillingham based intervention, and he's now getting his associate's degree in graphic design. So when that book
oh,
came out,
congrats.
I was just like, it was I just got it a couple of weeks ago.
Can you
So
can you
it's just
say
a beautiful.
the name of the book and the author one more time?
It's Aaron Slater illustrator. It's Andrea. I think it's Beatty.
Okay. I'll have to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent book.
We'll put that in the show notes too for anybody who's interested in that. But thank you so much, Penny.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. And
You've been so instrumental in even at Brainspring and bringing the science of reading to all of us, to the instructors, and then we take it to participants and teachers. So thank you so much for all of your input and your devotion to this.
I couldn't have done it. I miss having a partner, and that Kristen and I worked a lot together. Kristen was the other literacy specialist that I worked with in Arkansas, and she's the one who we went through Brainspring training and some different things, but she's a CALC and she has a lot of knowledge as well. And I, through those 4 years of working with her, we were able to do some really fun things together. So
Kristen Kossover, she actually was a guest on one of our previous podcasts. So yes, thank you, Kristen, as well.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Penny. It's been great talking to you.
Yes. Thank you so much. And stay warm, stay
Yeah.
safe up there, get some snow tires.
Yeah.
So that's our show for today.
That's our
So
show.
just remember to follow us on social media, watch us on YouTube, send in your questions, or you can also send in a question or a comment in our voicemail. And all the links for those will be in the description. And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you
Thanks
next
for
time.
joining.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.